Hi, and welcome to Shooting the Shit. I am your host, Betty Reed, and my guest today is entrepreneur and singer-songwriter Nikki Forbes.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Thanks.
So
I'm
glad
excited
you're
to be here.
So glad you're here. So yeah, why don't you tell us what you do?
Ooh. Better question is, what don't I do, Betty?
It's
As I'm sure you're familiar.
list.
But I'm a pop singer-songwriter, producer, and then I also own my company Popville, which supports creatives in Nashville who are in genres beyond country and like me. And essentially we do live shows, we resource artists, and we build community. And that's something that's really important to me. And that's where a lot of my energy is going these days, outside of my artist project. So those are the biggest things that take up my time.
Great. So much to kind of dive into, which I'm really excited that there's so much there. Let's start with Popville because I'm so interested in how you got started with it. What was the process of like starting with the idea and then building to what it is now, especially like everything that you had to put into it, right? Because I mean, not only just your time, but like money and getting people and networking and kind of putting all the community together from scratch. So yeah, I want to deep dive. I want to know.
Oh, girl. Where do I start? Well, Popville originally started as a pop showcase in my mind that I was like, I go to all these showcases, but like I never really find like a lot of really cool pop artists. Or, you know, when I do go, like there might be like one, or in a writer's round, there's like one out of like 18 who like actually make music that I listen to a lot. And it's like I love my country music friends and, you know, support what they're doing, but they already have such a strong framework in Nashville that I really wanted to build a foundation and build a community around people who don't fit into that and who aren't necessarily celebrated in those spaces, like me. And so, you know, I kind of built this for myself as much as it is for everyone else because I really craved that community. And, you know, I really wanted to streamline the process of people making friends and finding people who really get them, because I was finding that I was playing all the rounds in town. I was meeting people, networking, getting coffee, like all the things, but I wasn't really connecting with a ton of them because I would be in these rounds and I would, you know, country music. Here's my pop song, guys. Yep. Hi, my name is Nikki Forbes and I'm a pop singer-songwriter. And it's like, and people are like, cool. I mean,
but why are you here?
But, and I was tolerated in a lot of spaces, but I was not celebrated. And I wanted to create a space where everyone who walks in that door is going to be celebrated for what they're doing and not just tolerated, because it's not a great feeling to feel like people don't really want you around. And I was in those spaces a lot because I didn't mind it, because I was like, I'm confident in what I'm doing and I know that I'm bringing value and this is great experience or whatever. Met tons of awesome people that way, and collaborators even in the country realm. But I really felt passionate about creating a community and kind of like a magnet, because I was meeting people all over town here and there who were like, oh, I do, you know, R&B, or I do soul, or, you know, I do like folk Americana, but it's not quite country, or I do rock or hip hop or whatever. And they're like, I haven't really found my people. And I was like, girl, me too. Yeah. Let's fix that. And so after being here almost 3 years, I was like, well, either I'm going to do this or we're going to be without, because there are a few communities around town that are supporting these artists and people who are doing things that are other than country, and love them, support them 100%. And I'm really glad that they are here, but they weren't really meeting consistently. And they were very hard to find or figure out, when are they meeting? How can I connect? How can I get involved? And it wasn't really a very clear entry point. So in my own experience of being in the community and deep diving, I wanted to figure out, how can I make this easier and more approachable for people? Because I want people when they walk into a Popville show to feel that warmth.
Yeah.
And to feel like, oh, like I might be unfamiliar at first, but people are greeting me at the door. People are asking me questions. They're inviting me to sit with them. Like, these are the things that make people want to stay. Because as much as people might love our mission, if they don't feel welcome, that is going to be the determining factor of whether they come back.
Yep.
And I think it's really important, as this dream has developed, that the heart stays the same of like, this is to serve the artist. This is to serve the creative. And as far as like the money thing, like everything has come out of my own pocket. And we're 10 months in, and I am so grateful and I feel so blessed to be able to do this. But it has made me want to quit music. Several times, or at least quit the company, because being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. Like, doing this yourself, and artists get it. Like, artists are entrepreneurs. You know, you listening to this, I bet you're an artist, or I bet you're creative. You are an entrepreneur and you own a business, whether you think you do or not. And it's time to start treating it like that, while also keeping the heart alive, because this business can be so soul-sucking.
Oh my God.
And it is so difficult to maintain your like sense of self when everyone is like yelling at you, like, be this, be that, don't do this, do that, just kidding, also do that. It's like all these contradicting ideas, and you're like, I don't know who to listen to. There's so much noise. And really the biggest thing is you got to be yourself, right? And I know so many artists in Nashville who have changed their genre to fit in here.
Yep.
Who came here to be a pop artist, who came here to be a rock artist, and they turned into a country artist to fit the mold and make money.
Yeah.
Right?
Which especially makes
sense.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. And I think that's like a lot of that we struggle with is, well, we need money in this, so we have to kind of make music that isn't particularly resonant with us, but will sell, which can be fun. Like, it can definitely be super fun to make, even if it's not exactly who you are. But I did notice that a lot, especially in the beginning when I was looking for places to play, most of them were like, they need to be country songs. You need to be a country, you know. I'm like, well, none of my songs. I think I do have one or two country songs that I love, but I'm not going to like play around just to play those songs.
Right. Especially if it feels inauthentic.
Yeah.
You know, when you're playing this and you're like, I don't feel like myself, or like I'm really like showing people what makes me different. And I mean, I've done country music here, like not specifically as an artist, but I've written country music and I've played on Broadway and I've had to learn hundreds of country songs, and you know, and there's value in that for sure. And I'm really glad that I had those experiences. But as I've grown here, I've realized that is not feeding my soul. That is not making me feel alive. That's not making me feel excited. And for some people it does. And that's great. I don't want to take up space for them to do that here.
Yeah. Especially,
you know?
when that's them. That's where they thrive and stuff like that. And you're trying to fit yourself in there. And it's like, well, why are you taking up the voice that I truly want to be here and you truly don't, you know? And I totally get that. And I'm like, I want to be in the space that I feel like is my space, but also the people that relate see that too, right? They can see either the audience or other, you know, people, singer-songwriters can see if you enjoy what you're doing or not.
Yeah.
It really shows.
I mean, it's clear. People are more intuitive than we give them credit for. Like, even through the screen, people can tell if you're being real or not.
Yeah.
And people resonate with you being yourself. Like, that's so cliche. But when you truly just show up and you're like, I'm goofy, I'm silly, I make mistakes, like, I'm excited about this, I hate this, like, just being real and being like, I'm a human. Like, it was really hard for me to get out of the house today. People relate to that because it's real.
It's really hard for me to get out of bed today. It was really hard for me not to press snooze for the 15th time in a row. And then there's also just like doing. and it feels great, and it also is exhausting. And then once you have like that small break, you're like, you realized how much you just put into something because of how exhausted you are, because you didn't take those breaks in between. The crash just becomes 20 times worse than it ever needed to be, because you just went and went and went and went. Sometimes I feel like don't have a choice.
I mean, that is such a counter industry thing, where the music industry specifically like rewards burnout. And it's very scary how this is becoming so normalized, of the of whoever in the industry being applauding people like working themselves to death, and until they're having mental breakdowns and crashing out and like, you know, really having a hard time or losing their love for music.
Yeah.
That happened to me. And I can tell you, I have burned out several times since being here for different reasons. But being an artist and being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. Doing this thing and grinding and like putting in the work, especially on the front end, it's such an investment financially, with your energy, with your mental health. Like, that is so underappreciated of what artists sacrifice to do what they're doing. And with the side jobs and stuff, like, that's so important, but it's just as exhausting, and it's adding more and more and more to the plate, that without giving yourself grace and time to be and like process and think and like have days for yourself and like get outside and like drink water, like move your body, even if it's like a little baby hot girl walk. Like, these are things that have seriously changed the game for me. It sounds stupid, but it's the little things that add up, because it can feel so overwhelming being like, oh my God, like I need to get my life together. And you're like, my life? Like, that is a huge thing. But really, it's like, well, what's one tiny step I could take that's going to take me 5 minutes? And that's how I've kind of been able to take steps out of that. But sometimes that also means taking steps back from things that you care about and that you want to do, because you cannot pour out of an empty cup, right? Like,
that's great. That's a great saying.
That is literally impossible, you know? And it comes from what is pouring into you. And like, for me, like, that's my relationship with God. Like, that is so important to me. And that's something that fills me up. And like, being with my community and hanging out with my friends and talking to my family and, you know, remembering that I am not in this life alone and that there is always hope. Like, those are things that are so crucial to me foundationally, that for some odd reason, as a human, I can just forget.
Yep.
When I get so isolated and I'm like, everything's horrible. And
yep,
it's that one track
I don't want to
mind.
do anything.
It's like the black or white kind of thinking. And, you know, these, what are they called? Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to think about this. There's a book, and I'm going to send you the link to it.
Okay.
But it's called When Panic Attacks. And it is one of the most like transformational books for like mental health, and pairing that like with therapy was a game changer for me, because it looks at cognitive distortions and like black or white thinking or future telling or minimizing or maximizing or like trying to like read people's minds, or different things that are painting the truth. So like, it's like wearing different lenses that you're looking at the world through that are not actually clean. And you're seeing things in a way that's distorted from reality, and it enhances these like really big emotions, right? And the emotions are okay. Emotions are just there. They don't mean anything about you. And that's something I've been learning in therapy, is that I am not how I feel. And that is huge. And it makes sense on a foundational level. You're like, of course not. They're just feelings. But it's like, no, like, I am actually a whole, worthy, valuable being, regardless of what I do, don't say. Like, you are a human, therefore you have innate value. And that was something when I first went into therapy, I was like So like I know that's true, but I do not believe that's true. And that's like really sad, but it's something that I've really had to learn and give myself self-compassion and like learn how to be more gentle with myself, and like, especially in my brain, and like going back to kind of the outer world of being in this creative industry is constantly bombarded into our brain of like, you're not working hard enough. Like if you're not successful, it's because you're not grinding. And it's like, there are so many more factors that you are not considering right now. And a lot of the people who are like being successful on social media or whatever, you have no freaking idea like what they're doing behind the scenes, if their mental health is suffering, like if they've, you know, lost relationships through this, you know, or like whatever happened. And some of them also have huge teams behind them that they never talk about. They're like, I'm an independent artist and I'm doing it all myself, but like they're literally not.
Yeah.
And like social media is fake. Like it's literally fake. It's made to make you feel things and to incite emotion so that you purchase things.
Yeah.
Or think that there's something lacking in your own life, therefore you need to change something. It like makes you feel like you don't have enough.
We literally are told we have to make clickbait. And it's like, oh, that's so fake. It feels so
icky.
lame. Yeah, it does feel icky. But at the same time, it's like, well, you're not going to watch my video, which you might actually like, but I have to put some ridiculous caption on it. You watch the entire video because you were looking for that clickbait thing. It feels so icky and I hate it. But what other choice do I have if I want to continue? And I don't have to do it forever, because once I actually get that following and get that thing, then you can be your more authentic self. But that also just sounds disgusting, right? And it's like that audience was there for something else. So it can be such a sleazy industry for that reason. And you can be fake. You can make yourself a whole different person on social media. And sometimes I have to remind myself, like, you're not that person.
It feels like Black Mirror or something.
Yeah.
Like on a counter argument side of that, I think that people respond better to the authentic content of you being like, here's who I am, here's what I'm struggling with. And people click on that way more in my experience.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean. It can be a tricky thing.
I just want social media. I want it to be different than what it is right now. But I have a feeling it's just going to get almost worse and worse.
Maybe. Or maybe we have influence in that.
This episode is sponsored by Red Bicycle Germantown. It's more than a coffee shop. The staff feel like family, the food is out of this world, where you'll always get good coffee for a good morning.
All right. I would like to talk about how we met.
Okay.
Because you weren't in Nashville yet, right?
I was living here, but I was still in college. So I was here for the summer. I was doing an internship at a recording studio.
Okay. Because
it's 2021, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people lost a lot of money on that gig that we did. And
I think everybody did. I don't think there's one person. I sold all of my tickets and I still lost money.
I sold all my tickets plus a little more. So technically I made like a little bit of money. But with all those tickets that I sold, if I did my own show and sold those tickets, I would have made 3 to 4 times more than what I made doing that. And the only thing good that came out of it, really, you and Matthew Thomas and just like the people that we met, basically. That was probably, and getting to perform a little bit was nice. It was a good performance by everybody, so that was kind of cool. But that was it.
Yeah. So essentially, like, we met doing a mini festival, and it was a big lineup of a bunch of artists who were local and from other states. It was essentially pay to play. And they would not admit that it was.
Right.
But
that
it was
the thing. Yeah.
And they were like, no, like, if you sell your tickets, then you're going to make so much money. And I was like, okay, but you're charging $25 to $30 for a ticket? to people that this community does not know yet. And you're also not even offering like vendors or drink tickets or like anything to draw people in except for the artists. And it's like, it's a festival. And it's like, no, it's just a big showcase. And, you know, so we both like got connected with this company that reached out to us. It was like, hey, like, do you want to play this festival in Nashville? And we were like, I mean, that sounds cool.
Sounds awesome.
And so we got on the phone with him and I was writing down all this stuff and I was like, this is a really big upfront cost. Like, and the thing was that they made you pay beforehand. Like, you had to pay the deposit. And then if you sold them, then they would refund you.
Then that's right. That's right. You're right. Oh my God.
And I was like, any company that makes you pay up front, you need to analyze the agreement because that is not how this should work. And there were just so many red flags that like now after doing it and like as a business owner and as somebody in the industry, if somebody brought that to me, I would be like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Experience, man.
Or you need to negotiate this contract because everything about this is screaming scam.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It wasn't entirely a scam because they did have the event. People did come. We did perform. You know, we sold our tickets and, you know, then we didn't have to pay money back. But that was the thing. It was like, okay, so I sold my tickets. That just means I'm not in hundreds and hundreds of dollars of debt.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what they charged us. I feel like it was something crazy.
It was definitely close to like 100, but
oh, they charged me way more than that.
I don't think they charged me as much.
Really?
Yeah.
It was like almost $1,000.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
See, now I'm thinking they did different for everybody too. I thought it was really weird for them to reach out to people that didn't already have a community here or like know people here, having to sell tickets.
And asking like my like brand new friends to pay $30 for a ticket to come see me. It was so rough. Yeah. And a lot of them did it because they're absolute angels. And my parents like drove into town for it because I was like, this is going to be a huge festival. And they were like, it's at this like literal local bar. Yeah. Like, what are you saying? So anyway.
More than I think about half that audience.
Overpromised, underdelivered.
Yeah. I think half that audience were the people that I brought to.
No, literally.
And like, luckily it was like my golden girlfriends that I literally met through being my neighbor and then like met all her friends and they were like amazing. And I was like, do you guys want to come? And luckily they did all, if they didn't all come, I wouldn't have made any money back or I would have paid the whatever fee it was.
It felt like they were kind of preying on the new artists in Nashville.
Exactly.
And it felt really
100%.
Because they called me when I was still in college and I hadn't even moved there yet.
I was only there for 2 years and just started out like with a very low following. I think they look for low followers on Instagram.
They were looking for their target audience of naive young artists who are anxious to play and, you know, want to have something cool on their resume.
Yep.
But it ended up like really screwing a lot of people over, especially as young, like new artists. It's like a couple $100 like is a very big deal. Yeah. I did not realize what was happening until I was promoting it and they didn't even promote it.
No,
that was the thing. They didn't even promote the show. They're a show promoter.
Usually there should be photographer. Yeah, usually there should be a photographer and videos.
They didn't even give us photo or video coverage or anything.
You had to do all of that yourself. Yeah.
Like it was so absurd I had to laugh.
Which I didn't know at the time though. That was the thing. You didn't know it at the time.
Of course not. It makes me really sad that like the people who are running that like can live with themselves, like knowing that they're constantly screwing people over. And I think they have to do some kind of mental gymnastics in their mind to like convince themselves that it's okay. And I ended up calling them out on social media and I didn't tag them because I respect other companies, even if they got shady business practice. I'm just not in the business of like, you know, doing that. But I needed, like, it was a funny video I made that was like when a company books you and they say it's not pay to play and then charge you $1,000 to play or whatever. And then they like DM'd me because they saw it and they were like, I'm so sorry that you like felt this way, but this is blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you don't need to justify yourself. You're just mad that I'm like telling people.
It's not a real apology, let me tell you.
Actually, I literally a couple weeks ago, I had an artist reach out to me and was like, hey, like I got like approached by this company. It was the same company. And they're like, what do you think about this? And I was like, absolutely not. I called them and I was like, do not work with them. You will get scammed. Like that is the worst decision. And they were like, I'm so glad you let me know. And I was like, yes.
I wish someone.
And I was like,
us,
maybe I need to put this on Yep or something because
I guess not.
It's just I don't want to have my name associated with like blacklisting people. I also don't want to be like targeted, you know?
Yeah. No,
as like
100%.
the whistleblower.
100%.
But the whistle needs to be blown. Like
people need to know.
Honestly, here's the thing is artists should not be motivated by fear of losing their life savings to play a show. That is ridiculous. It just makes me so sad that that was the case. Is I was completely motivated by like, I will be broke if I do not sell these tickets, instead of like, I'm really excited about this show. Here's all the value that it's adding. Like, you know, you can meet so many friends there. It's a networking opportunity, like all these cool things. Like there's a drink special. Like after I've done all these events, I'm like, you guys literally could have offered so much more and it wouldn't have cost you anything.
Especially because I knew the owner of that bar and they could have very much made a deal with her on some great things.
Yeah.
She's funny. I don't think she owns any of the bars anymore because she owned Belcourt Taps and then she owned Cabana Taps and
Alley Taps.
I did my first single release at Belcourt Taps.
Aww.
And she was absolutely incredible setting everything up. Like there were actually like a good amount of people there.
Wow.
Like it was so great. She was so sweet. I loved going to Belcourt Taps. I mean, I miss Belcourt Taps.
I love Belcourt. Everyone misses Belcourt Taps. And that honestly, that was part of the motivation for me starting Popville is I was like, after Belcourt dissolved, everyone was just like lost in the abyss. They're all like looking for like where to call home.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel that way. Everyone I've talked to has felt that way because they intentionally built a community and everyone who walked in the door felt welcome. And like, that's where I booked my first show. That's where I made all my first friends. That's where I played like all this stuff. And it's like, hello, there's free parking, like cheap drinks, like, you know, all these things that made it what it was, even though it was like a dingy, like freaking gross, so like dive bar.
Yeah.
But it was the relationships and it was so easy to make friends there because everyone was so eager to be friends.
So sweet.
And honestly, Belcourt Taps is like almost single-handedly the reason that I stayed in Nashville. Because when I went there, I had no idea what I was going to meet when I got here because I was like, oh, you know, like the music industry is like, it can be very like dog eat dog and like people are kind of like just trying to like climb to the top or whatever. And it's very competitive. And Nashville like welcomed me with open arms.
Yeah.
And especially the songwriting community was so kind, so welcoming. And, you know, I would see somebody play on stage and I'm like, wow, they're so good. And afterwards I'd be like, hey, like I really loved this, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh my gosh, we should get coffee sometime. I was like,
yeah.
You don't even know me.
Or do you want to songwrite sometime?
Yeah, like, oh, we should write together sometime. And I was like, just like that? Like, it's that easy?
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah. And like in that space, that was such a normal thing. And that's where I met so many of my first friends and so many of my first co-writes here. And, you know, I wanted to bring that part of the community, like into Popville, of like people feel safe here. People feel like every time they come here, they're going to see somebody they know. And like, if they don't, then they're going to make a new friend and they're going to, the chances of meeting somebody you actually want to work with at Popville is so much higher because you're not having to pick through like all these random things that are happening. And I'm meeting all these people around town. They're like, oh, I do this like niche subgenre. And then this person does this niche subgenre. I'm like, oh, have you guys met? And they're like, no. And I'm like, how have you guys not crossed paths? Do the exact same thing. And it's because there's not a place for people to meet.
Yep.
And I was like, well, we need to fix that because that's the idea. Is you create the magnet and people who want it will come.
This episode is brought to you by Jack Brown's Germantown. Nothing like the perfect combination of beer and burgers. With one of the largest selection of beers and unique burgers to try, you'll never be disappointed.
We've actually written like 2 songs together. How many?
Probably more. 3,
3,
4,
a few,
20. I don't know.
A few,
Yeah.
definitely a few. My favorite is the one that we wrote actually when we went to the park. It was just such a nice day, and we just wrote in the park. That was so nice.
Hold on.
Because you went on a trip to Europe, and so we wrote about.
No, it was the worst date I ever had in my life.
We wrote about the worst date you had in your life. It was so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
It was just such a beautiful day, and we were like,
next time I won't be so damn polite.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes, that was it. That was it.
Oh my gosh. But no, I mean, honestly, I've kept track of all the songs I've written, but not all the people I've written with. So I'm over 250 songs now because I did the whole 52 songs one year, 104 songs the next year.
One of my favorite songs actually came from that too.
Really?
Stuttering, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Stuttering.
Yes.
Saying that we're more than friends.
Yeah.
Just
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, I get so excited when you
That's
play
such a
that
sexy,
song.
fun song. Dude, that's definitely gonna be coming out. I really want that to come out. But like the focus has not been on artists.
Have you ever heard of Lily Allen?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so definitely look up Lily Allen. She's an amazing artist. She came out with an album back in, it had to be like 2008. I was in middle school. And it was one of my favorite albums. And there's a song on there that reminds me of that. Like it has that like da 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 da. And one of her songs absolutely like blew up. So that was the one that everyone knew, but there was a ton of songs on that album that were just absolutely incredible.
I'll have
and then
to look her up.
She created a bunch of other songs that did pretty well. And I haven't heard a lot of any of her stuff since really. Her song Fuck You did really well, and that came out in like when I was like in high school. Fuck you very, very much.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Lily
yeah.
Allen. But yeah, no, you would absolutely
Okay, I'm
love
gonna look her
that.
up when I get home.
I love doing that. I love finding people's genres or their songs or like something that I'm like, I think you'll really like this artist. And I love when they don't know who the artist is, because I'm like, once you look it up, you're gonna be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is so good.
I got to introduce somebody to Lizzie McAlpine the other day, and I was like,
that's a good one.
He was like, I'm obsessed. And I was like, yes. It was somebody from Camp Popville, and he was like, oh my gosh. He's like, this is so cool. And we were like analyzing the song together because he's a producer too, but he does very cinematic kind of production stuff. And I was like, you would really like her stuff because it's very lyrically driven, but the production is really intentional. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you introduced me to this. I was like, yes.
It's like introducing like your two friends that have never met each other from like two different places, and you see them come together and you're like, it's magic, right?
Yeah.
Magic.
It's the crossover episode.
Yeah.
Being an artist here can be very challenging, but when you find your people and you find your community who gets you and like I said, celebrates you, it changes the game, you know? And it doesn't even have to be like finding your best friends immediately, you know, because that's something that has to be developed over time. And it's like a lot of that, like there's a threshold I've found in the community of like how many times you see somebody at an event until you both just assume that you're friends. And it's interesting. It's about 4 times, like in my experience of like seeing people just at events and you're like, oh my gosh, hi. And then the next time you're like, oh my gosh, hi. And then the next time you're like, oh my gosh, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
And then the next time you're like, oh my gosh, how are you? I've been following you on Instagram. How's that thing going?
And then
it's like the 5th time you're like, let's go get coffee, you know? And it's like, obviously we run in the same circles. Like we should meet, you know? So anyway, it's really cool though, because like anything in life, consistency is where the growth happens. And you have to be committed to building your friendships intentionally and following up. When you meet somebody at an event, freaking DM them the next day and be like, hey, it was so great meeting you. Would love to grab coffee sometime, or whatever you talked about. Would love to jam. You know, here's my availability. Not just sometime into the ether. It's okay to say sometime like at the beginning, and they're like, yeah, great. Okay, you made your initial connection. But then like in the next week, you should offer something, because that's how you're going to build a relationship. And I know it's so hard and it's hard to keep track of everybody, but this is something that I've had to learn the hard way of like meeting really cool people and then like forgetting to reach out. And it's been like that kind of amount of time, and it's like, like, I don't know if it's really like cool to reach out anymore.
It's so much easier to do that as a kid. Wow, it was
Dude, you're
so
like,
much.
do you want to be best friends? You're
Yeah,
like,
it would be best friends. Okay, yeah, like it's so much easier to make friends as a kid. Mostly, I was a little socially awkward, so it wasn't always easy for me. But it was still easier to be like, "Want to be friends? We're friends. Okay, let's go play on the playground." You know, like where it's like here, I feel like it's
there's like a formula, but like not really, because when I've
overthinking. We're just overthinking.
Here's the thing: it's like exactly what you're saying. I've gone up to people and been like, "This might be kind of weird, but like, I really like your vibe. Like, I really like your vibe, and I really think we should hang out."
Yeah,
and 9 times out of 10, they love it. And they're like, I love that idea. Like, let's go do it. Or like we find out that we both crochet or something like niche.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, let's have a crochet party.
Let's go through. I love finding thrift shoppers.
And you can just like
I love
skip
finding
some steps if you can find like a niche shared interest.
It doesn't have to be music.
No,
either.
it doesn't have to be music. It's better if it's not, quite honestly. Because we deal with that all the times in our life. And I feel like the friendships go so much deeper whenever you can like relate on more life stuff. Because then you're not just collaborators in like the business side, but then you're like building the friendship. And it's like music is a great place to start because it's a shared interest. And immediately it's like if you do music in Nashville, I feel like it's a lot easier to make friends than if you don't. At least that's what I've heard and what I've found for a lot of my other friends. And because you immediately have a shared interest and you know a lot of like the standard questions to ask. But I've been trying to challenge myself to like not ask the basic questions. I don't really care where you grew up. Like, quite honestly, respectfully, there are so many more interesting things about you that I want to know, which like, cool, like maybe I know where you grew up and we can connect on that.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's like a small piece.
But there's so many deeper, cool things.
Yeah.
Noah does this really well, my boyfriend.
I was going to say, like, what's the difference? Do you feel like there's a difference or kind of the same as when you're dating musicians?
Dude.
Because you're dating a musician.
I am dating a musician, but we're not pursuing the same career, which I think makes it so much easier that like we're not both artists, because I think there's a lot of ego involved there that like can cause a lot of conflict. And I've kind of done that intentionally. Well, I love dating Noah as a whole because he's just wonderful. But
he's a sweet guy.
But I also really love that he's a producer, he's a drummer, right? And he can write songs, but he's not trying to be an artist. And it pairs perfectly with me if I'm trying to do an artist thing, which I also do production and writing and that kind of stuff. I don't play drums though.
Yeah.
So he's played drums with me and like we get to do a lot of shared experiences. And we also get to nerd out about music all the time and the production. And he nerds out way deeper than I do, but I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But I think
you're like, this is kind of sexy. Keep going. Talk dirty to me with your music.
It's like, did you hear the LFO on that? He was like, oh my God, the side chain. He connected it to the vocal and the kick and like whatever. And I'm like, cool.
Nice.
But the thing is like, I understand. Like I went to school for music like and audio production. So I understand. But he will hyperfixate on this stuff. But the cool thing like about making friends though that I feel like I've really learned from Noah is he's like not afraid to ask weird questions like right off the bat. He doesn't even know their name. He's like, so if you were stuck in medieval times, what would be the 3 things that you would bring with you from the modern era and you have to stay there forever? And it's like,
that's a great question, by the way.
He'll just ask these like really like interesting questions that like they kind of disarm people in a good way, because then they're like, oh, cool. Like we'll just be in line with somebody. He's like if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? And why? And then you follow up with like, okay, but like what if that animal could speak and then it was in its own, empire? What role would it have in the parliament? Like he did never ask this. I'm saying like he'll just think of the most creative things. Yeah. And it gets people really thinking. And it's like you get to know people way quicker when you ask weird questions. And then people are like, oh, they're silly goofy. Like, yeah. Like I can be friends with them. Yeah. It's not as like, hello, what is your name? Where are you from? I've gotten so tired of it.
No, I love silly goofy. I think it brings out a personality, like your personality when you don't feel like everything's so serious, right? And you're like, meeting someone and a little nervous, like what's going to happen? Will they like me? Blah, blah, blah. But like once you come out to your goofy self and you're like, oh, they're goofy. I could be goofy.
Yeah.
Then your personality really shines and it kind of gets that like super connection, which is nice. I mean, that makes knowing people a little bit less scary.
Yeah, and it's the authenticity we were talking about earlier of like, people really connect when you show up as yourself and you're not like the masked version of yourself, which sometimes there are some spaces that like it's appropriate to only like to kind of gradually, you know, show parts of yourself. But 9 times out of 10, people love it when you're just like, so what's up? I tripped on the way in here, so that's why I have mud on my ass, if you're wondering.
Love that. Love that.
People love it.
Perfect. Hey music lovers, this is Betty Reed, your host for Shooting the Shit, a podcast to help you navigate the music industry. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to help the podcast grow. And thanks for listening to me and my guest, Shoot the Shit. Okay, Nikki. So for the people listening, either artist or somebody that wants to start a business like doing an event, songwriter events, even networking events, what advice would you give them for getting started?
Know what you're getting into.
That's good.
I think the biggest thing is you have to love it. You have to be passionate about it, and you have to have a really strong why behind what you're doing, because there will be many, many days where you do not want to do it. And your mission behind it and your why has to be stronger than that feeling. And for me, like Popville, the mission for Popville is so much bigger than me. And it's bigger than what I can even gain from it, because I'm trying to make something and build something that lasts even beyond what I can do. It's like teach a man to fish, right? Like I can book you for a show and that's great, but I'm like giving you a fish. And when you actually come to the events and you start networking and you start meeting people and you start taking advantage of the resources that we have on our website and Discord and all that stuff, or you're reaching out and being like, hey, I really want to learn this, or hey, you know, I really want to find a photographer that really gets me. We've got those connections. And learning how to book a gig, learning how to be a good collaborator, learning how to make money from your music and register your stuff with the MLC and BMI and all that BS.
Yeah.
It's like teaching a man to fish, like, or a woman to fish.
Yeah. Teaching a person.
And I think it's really important to keep that in mind as you're building something. If you want it to be sustainable, is a lot of people in Nashville have mixed reviews about this. But for me, I feel like it's so much more valuable for me to teach you something than for me to just do it for you. And you're going to get more out of it. You're going to learn more, and you're going to take it more seriously because you have something kind of at stake. And as far as songwriter rounds go, artists are flaky. Respectfully.
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time. You have to be
prepared for things to go awry. And so you learn that over time.
Yeah, prepare for the chaos.
But you have to be flexible and ready to make the necessary changes to serve the event and serve the artists who are in it. People will no show, no call. People will cancel. People will, you know, make up crazy excuses. People will be super needy. They'll ask you the weirdest questions, like, and some people will be rude. Some people, you know, will have all these issues, and it's like, okay, this is all learning experience. And regardless of how experienced you are in the industry, you're going to deal with this stuff. Yeah. And like writers rounds, it kind of feels like you're teaching people how to artist. They already know how to do it, but it's in a writers round that's a very niche way of learning how to be a performer, of how to interact with the audience, how to banter, how to tune your guitar and talk, how to compliment your colleagues in a, succinct, respectful way, when to speak, when not to speak.
How long to speak when
how
you're
long to
introducing a
speak,
song.
right? What to wear, like different things, how to communicate with your host, like following up and thanking them, or different things, or staying after and helping clean up, like little things that can go so far in getting you more opportunity or just setting you apart, right? And sometimes a writer's round is just a great experience to practice, more than anything.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get paid to play writer's round. And they're very, very popular here. And I would say the biggest reason to get in a writer's round is to make connections.
Yeah. I've said this before too, but what I think is really important is you show up early, see the people before you. If you can't, you can't. But see the people before you, meet the people around you, enjoy the writer's round you're in, talk to the people that are in your round. Even during it can be fun. You can, make jokes and then stay. You get up and leave after your set. It just seems like that. Now, if you have another set afterwards, or like, a gig afterward, whatever, like you kind of booked yourself up like to keep going, fine. But if you're just gonna
come earlier.
Yeah, then come earlier and meet people. Exactly. But stay.
There are some excuses, but most of the time, be respectful. Pour into the community that you want to pour into you.
Exactly. You wanted people to stay for you.
You have to put something in to get something out.
Yeah. And especially if you're like in the middle or in the beginning. If you're like at the end, come early. But you also know what it feels like for people to literally leave as soon as they're done playing and take, their friends and everything with them. And
I take note of that.
Take video of yourself so you can post it up.
And review your performance.
Yeah.
Because you don't always know what you sounded like, or how many times you said like or or how long your intro was.
The intro, yeah.
Or that your string was out of tune or whatever. Like being able to see, or like, oh, the way I was sitting was kind of weird. That you are able to kind of,
or I didn't need
feedback.
To explain the song that much, because they should be able to get what the song is without me talking 5 minutes before.
Right. Or did the song even need an intro at all?
Right.
Did this song really need that extra chorus?
Yeah. No, it never needs a third and fourth chorus.
I don't know about never, but
okay.
But I feel like, especially at Writer's Round, some people make a 2.5-minute song into a 5-minute song, and you're like, that was unnecessary, and now everyone is annoyed.
Yeah, my irk, I don't know, is when somebody adds the solo part and goes at it for like a minute. Like I've had like a few people just do a solo guitar part or piano part or whatever. And I was like, that could have clearly been cut for something where you have 4 other people on stage.
Right. And you're taking time away from the other people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you have pretty sharp cutoffs with some of these venues.
Yeah.
But I think writers' rounds are very valuable. Highly recommend, especially if you're newer to the community, if you're looking to get involved anyway. Show up, even if you're not playing.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Up.
Just show up is a great way.
Because people see you, whether you think you're being seen or not. People are watching, especially the hosts. And a lot of times, hosts are running around doing all kinds of BS, like me. Okay, I'm hurting people. I'm like, get along, little doggy. Like that's literally me. And little by little, like as we're expanding the Popville team, like I'm able to delegate more things and be like, hey guys, can y'all like greet people and like make sure that everything's going ahead, or like kind of delegating sound stuff or like whatever, little by little. And as a business owner, that has been one of the biggest learning curves for me, is delegation. Yeah. And so I'm still learning that. And the Popville team are very frequently like, what can I do? How can I help? And I'm like, I don't know. And so like as a business owner and starting this, like there is going to be a learning curve, and having grace with yourself is one of the biggest blessings and gifts that you can give yourself, is being like, hey, I don't know everything yet. And it's unreasonable for me to expect myself to know that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really great to have friends and community who can, help support you in that, and therapy. And, that's so critical. And that's something that I'm really glad that we talk about a lot openly, because it normalizes it. And it makes me like, oh yeah, I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Let's normalize being crazy. Well, it was so fun talking with you. I'm so glad you were on here. I can't wait just to see where this goes. And I think people are really going to enjoy this episode because this was so fun. And I think we got a good deep dive into things. And I really hope a lot of people get to learn from this as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for shooting the shit with me.
Anytime, Betty. I'm here for it. I love it.
And thank y'all for listening to me and Nikki Forbes shoot the shit. I'll have all her information if you want to get involved with Popville, if you want to listen to her music. I will put all the links below. She's a fantastic artist, just a fantastic person, as you could probably tell from this episode. So thank you for coming on, and thank you all for listening to us shoot the shit.